So I think it's time for a side project. I've technically been a Unity game developer for over a year now, but I've never released or finished a game. I'm still on the same project I started with no end in sight. So I'm gonna take a break. I'm gonna make a multiplayer game in 2 weeks. Now keep in mind, when I mean 2 weeks, I mean the very few hours I have after working a full-time job. You're probably all familiar with game jams. You have a set deadline, like 48 hours or maybe a week, and there's always some kind of theme. It's something I want to participate in the future, but I need practice creating some small projects first. This project was inspired by the game Headball 2, a 1v1 multiplayer mobile game that's pretty popular at my work. We have a lot of fun going head to head with each other. The core gameplay is great and a lot of fun, but the ads and microtransactions are f***ing abysmal. While playing Headball, I said to my coworker, "Hey, I bet I can make a 1v1 multiplayer game and kick your ass at that one too." So to keep it simple and reduce work time, I'm going to yoink my assets and mechanics from my currently development project FootJoust that you can watch my videos on also, please go watch them. So now I present the spin-off FootJoust Arena. Not the most original subtitle, but it gets the point across. So the first thing I did was open OneNote and just doodle and jot down what ideas I wanted to do. This way I can avoid feature creep. I'm not going to reveal all the mechanics at first, but basically, you and a real-world player fight each other 1v1 to knock each other out of the ring, with some added variables of course, and some similar ideas used in the normal version of FootJoust. Once again, this will be mobile, and because it's multiple players, I will need a spare phone. Next, I fired up Unity and created a new project. I created a block for the ground and a block for the player. Now I have no idea what to do next. I need to start by learning how to connect 2 mobile phones together. After some lengthy googling, it turns out Unity doesn't have their own multiplayer system built in anymore. So I came across a few tutorials on YouTube that got me to the point of having my 2 phones connect to each other and having the game spawn a player each. So at the moment I have no idea how to make this UI bigger on the phone and can only get the host to use the left and right UI buttons I slapped on, and the other client won't move at all at this point. Over the next couple of days I had no idea where to go next. I've certainly dug myself into a deeper hole than I originally anticipated. I just spent most of the time trying to absorb as much information as possible and the complexities and differences between developing for multiplayer as opposed to single player. So in short, I f***ed up, but I'm going to pursue it anyway. I'd love to tell you what I did in depth, but I mainly just messed around with everything and tried to absorb as much as possible from Dapper Dino and Shrine Wars, which were probably the best tutorials that I could find on YouTube until it worked. Unfortunately, I don't like reading and being fed information. I kind of just learn more by doing and playing around with things. And most of the resources available are very little and not to my liking. The longest process was just trying to get the 2 players to fight each other and send information from one to another. But now we have health and a knockback system from each of the attacks. So the system I researched to add on to Unity was called Mirror for the multiplayer, but the network transform option, which syncs all the movements between each player, is a little bit laggy between connecting the systems together. So I discovered another add-on that works with Mirror itself called Smooth Sync from the asset store, so I purchased that. Now the syncing between devices is a lot smoother. Continuing to test the games on my phone turned into a massive pain due to the UI being so small. So now it's time to reconstruct it. And after trying to re-implement the connection system for several hours and customize my own UI that can connect to another phone and bring up IPs on the network, I gave up and actually returned back to building the game, and will complete the rest of the networking later. So if any of you know how to do this, please help me. I needed to focus on what I know and create something tangible for this week's video, so I worked on the mechanics, which flew by naturally and a lot faster since I didn't need to work with any of the networking components at this point. So at this moment, visually, everything looks a bit shit. I also said I was going to use my main project's assets. I will, but for the time being, not yet. I need to make a good thumbnail and need this video to look good, so I borrowed some assets. And now, much better. The first thing you'll notice is each player has their own stamina system. Every move and action a player makes will draw from this bar that slowly regenerates over time. which is mostly inspired by Dark Souls. When a player runs out of stamina, they will be stunned for about 5 seconds before it restarts its generation again, and when a player is stunned, they won't be able to do any more actions, leaving them vulnerable to attacks. Next we have the direction buttons, which will help the player dash back and forward. The player won't be able to walk traditionally like in other games, which will help focus on the style of combat. Each player also has a raycast, which looks a small distance in front of them. If another player is too close, they won't be able to dash forward any further to avoid any weird collisions. The attack button simply checks a small radius in front of itself for another player, using raycast once again to check if the player is to the left or to the right of the player, since as both players have a copy of the same script each and have to be able to use the same mechanics, since both players are facing different directions. Players also won't have a traditional health system. This will be expanded upon in next week's video to be a lot deeper, but for now, when a player takes damage, their weight is reduced, making it easier to knock an opponent back out of the ring. So that's it for now. Next week I will be able to implement the more deeper mechanics I've planned, and I will be able to change these temporary assets to my own as well. Before I say goodbye, I just want to thank everyone who commented and liked on the last devlog, making it like my best performing video so far. So if you like this video and want to see the next part, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and let me know down below. Thanks for watching, you guys make it all worth it.